So did you hear that? Were you listening? Well, of course you were. Well, just in case, let's review that rather alarming list that came near the end of the gospel reading. Fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, just in case that's greed, wickedness, well, I don't know, deceit, licentiousness. Don't think I can give you a precise definition, but it sounds like something rather nasty, don't you think? Envy, slander, pride, folly. Well, now really, who's Jesus talking to anyhow? Definitely not me, maybe a few of you. So we might be inclined, at least initially, to react. Well, sorry. Apparently he's talking about every single one of us. And he's giving us a list of evil intentions that take up residence in the human heart. Now what do you think? Do you think the list is a complete list? I'm guessing it's really just a sample. In any case, the topic at the center of today's gospel reading is the topic of defilement. Spiritual and moral defilement that corrupts and destroys the human heart and makes us unfit to stand in the presence of God as someone worthy of approval. And more particularly, the issue under discussion is the issue of the source of this moral and spiritual defilement. The prevailing opinion of the religious and spiritual teachers of the day was this. These teachers, they were alarmed by what Jesus was teaching his followers. But Jesus says to them, you know what, guys? The source of defilement is not out there. I was kind of raised to think that it was. How about you? It's not out there. It's in here. And that being the case, if the folks that say that it's out there are correct, the more you could separate yourself from those people, the outsiders who did not share your beliefs, your way of life, then the better of your chance of avoiding defilement, of being infected by the stench and the filth and the dirt and the grime that clings to, those others. Well, the scribes and the Pharisees, who were the most religious people of the day, had developed a set of rituals meant to reinforce the importance of avoiding contact with the world out there. And what we heard about today were all of those ceremonial washings of anything and everything that might have been so much as touched by those people. Well, if we were paying attention, we already know that Jesus rejects this way of thinking about the source of defilement. We'll need to come back to that, but before we do that, I would like to say that it seems to me that we should not take that rejection to imply that there is never any value in taking care to stay away from certain ways of thinking and acting that are fashionable in the world around us. But rather, what Jesus is really wanting to communicate is this. He just wants us to understand that our avoidance, if we can manage it, will not by itself be adequate to protect us from spiritual defilement. Not good enough, he's saying. I'd like to take just a few moments for us to think about the subject of parenting. My own upbringing was full of many blessings for which I am very grateful. However, I'm guessing that we can all agree that there is no such thing as perfect parenting, especially those of us who have done that, tried to do that impossible thing. It seems to me that we should also be able to agree that a wise parent will do wise to caution their children against situations and relationships that just might be harmful to their soul. And somewhere on the spectrum between, on the one hand, attempted absolute control, some parents tend to go in that direction, I think, and on the other hand, total permissiveness, the other extreme. Somewhere along that spectrum probably lies the place of wise parenting. It would be nice to think, wouldn't it, that just occasionally a parent lands there. Now, in the town where I grew up, our neighbors had 2 sons, one of which was my age. I was quite strongly discouraged from developing a friendship with this child. Quite strongly discouraged, if not absolutely forbidden. You see, it was not that this family attended the wrong church. My parents were pretty firm about that as well. You know, the wrong church, like the Catholic Church. Definitely the wrong church for us. They did not attend any church. And I want you to understand, of course, that my point is not to complain about my parents' foolish parenting. They were good parents. They're long gone. They're not here to defend themselves. I simply want to illustrate the sort of thing that results from a misguided belief, namely the belief that we can protect ourselves from a defiled heart by taking care to avoid any influence from the world and from people out there. Can't be done. Cannot be accomplished in this way. And why not? Well, if we can trust the word of Jesus, the deepest source of defilement is never just out there. It's rather in here, in the human heart. Listen to me, says Jesus. Listen up. Pay attention. Listen to me, all of you, and understand it is from within. From within, from the heart, that evil intentions come. What was that list of evil intentions? Let's review again. Murder, adultery, avarice, greed, wickedness, deceit, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride. Folly. William Temple, some of you may know about him. He was Archbishop of Canterbury at a certain point in the last century. I think a very good Archbishop of Canterbury. I ran across this quote, which I very much like. After I thought about it for a while, didn't like it at first. He said, I know that I can do right. I know that I can do right if I want to. The problem is, but I don't want to. All right. I'm hoping that, like me, you are wanting to register a protest at this point. Surely this list cannot be the whole story of the items that take up residence in the human heart, in human hearts. I'm guessing that we've all known people, perhaps many people, who seem clearly to have hearts full of items completely other than and different from the depressing list that we've been thinking and talking about. And with that in mind, I'd like for us to take a look at something we find in Paul's letter to the Galatians. At one point in that letter, Paul provides a list of what he calls the works of the flesh. And that list contains all of the items contained in the list that we have been considering, plus a few extras. And so he is listing the evil intentions, the evil deeds that spring from a defiled heart. But then, thank God, this list is followed immediately by a second list. I'm thinking that you know it. A list called the fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit. The good news that followers of Jesus have been given to share with the world, I think, could be summarized somewhat in this way. The God who created us in his image and loves us to the death, even death on a cross, is offering to take up residence in our hearts if we will allow him to do so. And to do this in the person and power of his Holy Spirit, the Spirit that possessed the heart of Jesus absolutely and fully. And by so doing, that Spirit is able to overcome our human weakness and all those evil intentions that are there, truly there, and defile us, and to cleanse our defiled hearts. And to transform us into a sign of hope for a sin-sick world. All right, here's the list. I'm thinking some of you could almost sort of say it along with me, but here it is. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I'm guessing that probably he could have gone on. It's only a partial list. And I suppose it would be nice, I know it would be nice to think that if we allow God to enter our hearts and dwell there in the Spirit of his Son, and this list begins to dwell in us, that the other list is gone forever. Sorry, probably not in this life, in the next world, but nevertheless. Isn't that wonderful? And speaking for myself, I must tell you that I would not be here among you as a professing follower of Jesus if I had not, in the course of my life, met up with individuals who possess this amazing and beautiful list of qualities. And I feel really quite sure that many of you would say the same. I think so. Do you think that one day we might learn of others who would say the same about us, about the likes of you and me? The world is dying for lack of hope. Don't you agree? The world is dying for lack of hope. And who will become that embodiment of hope? Who, if not you? Who, if not me?